Hello everybody, and welcome back to a brand new video. Now the other day I was thinking back on one of RuneScape's most infamous history events, and that was the Falador Massacre. Everyone knows about it, and that kind of got me thinking. I started down the rabbit hole of RuneScape history, and we discovered something that I don't think a lot of people actually know about, and that is that there was actually a second Falador Massacre. Obviously, it didn't happen in Falador, and it wasn't the same person doing it, but I'm just calling it the Falador Massacre V2. Now we're going to start off by looking at that, but I have a couple other really interesting pieces from RuneScape's history that didn't really fit into a video on their own. So today is just going to be an interesting variety piece on RuneScape's history with a couple of different stories. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do, I always appreciate it if you leave the video a like. Always helps out with the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much, and let's get started. Now, the Falador Massacre V2, or otherwise known as the Tazar Fight Pit Massacre, was something that happened back in May of 2008, so pretty much 2 years after the original Falador Massacre. Now, the original Falador Massacre was caused by a glitch in the POH system, that when Duriel 321 was ejected from the combat ring in the POH, their attack options stayed on, and they were able to kill pretty much anyone, anywhere. Now, the Tazar Fight Pit Massacre had a similar result, although not the same, but was actually just caused by a new update adding a new quest to the game, Tox Ket Dill. Now, after the update, people started to notice something kind of strange, and that was that players that were in the waiting room for the Tazar Fight Pits could be attacked. So players within the waiting room could attack each other, and even players who were actually in the fight pits once the game started, if you had a high enough range, either using magic or ranged, you could actually attack, and many players died. Now during the massacre, if a player died, they did actually lose all of their items, or at least the items they would lose in that type of death. However, despite the fact that players were being killed and losing all of their items, they did not drop for anyone else, the only thing appearing being a gravestone. Now, this went on for quite a few hours until Jagex eventually did fix it and patch it out. And due to this glitch, actually many players were banned for taking advantage of it. Now, Jagex never really acknowledged what caused the glitch or how it happened, but obviously there was an issue with the code for the new quest that managed to affect an existing area. Now, interestingly enough, this is not the only time that this glitch appeared. It actually came back in 2012 when there was another update to the Tazar city. So technically there are at least 3 Falador Massacres out there, however these ones being way less known. Okay, so next up here we have an amazing journey gone on by one small little critter. Think of The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. This is kind of the spiritual sequel to it, and I am of course talking about the Abyssal demon named Grapefruit. This cute little guy managed to go all the way from the Slayer Tower in Mauritania to Privdinis, almost the entire length of the mainland. Now, how exactly did this happen, and why did this little guy decide to make such an epic journey? Well, simply, Grapefruit was lured. I don't know what they told him and why he decided to go with strangers across the entire map, but goddammit, Grapefruit did it. Now, the reason that this was actually possible is the fact that Abyssal demons have an ability that teleports to you when you attack it. Now, because of that, you could attack an Abyssal demon, run a couple steps away, and the demon will teleport to you, and you could repeat this over and over again. Now, good question is why they don't have a max wander range or something like that, but I'm kind of glad they didn't. Now, this poor, predictable Abyssal demon just kept teleporting across the entire map, never learning. Why'd you do a Grapefruit? We can see the exact map that they took, as along the way there were a couple of challenges, a big one being the River Salve. But luckily there's actually an agility shortcut that you can take over the bridge. Now from the River Salve they went west, up and around the lumberyard, and then they pretty much hugged the wilderness line all the way until Edgeville. From there they went down to Falador, through the gate, up and around the White Wolf Mountain, which must have been very challenging, across through the Seers village, and then down to the west until they got to the Tree Gnome stronghold. Now, the most impressive part of this is they managed to get it through a couple of pretty serious walls, as well as even going up and down floors in dungeons. Now, in certain circumstances, they were able to lure the Abyssal Demon through, and other times not. For example, when they went through Paterdomus, there was actually a barrier that they could attack over, rather than a wall, so that was fine. However, the entrance to Privdinis is similar to that of a dungeon entrance, as the map completely changes the same way it does in OSRS. However, impressively enough, for certain dungeon entrances, the aggression timer remained and the Abyssal Demon managed to teleport them even though they were going into a new map. That wasn't always the case, however, as certain ones didn't work, one being the White Wolf Mountain shortcut which they attempted to take, but that path was blocked to them, so they had to go over the mountain. Wow, this actually is like Lord of the Rings. Throughout this entire process, there were many gates to go through, and eventually they made it to the mountain and all the way to Privdinis. Now sadly, after around 10 minutes in Privdinis, Grapefruit did perish. Rest in peace. Now the entire process took about 3 hours to get it from the Slayer Tower to Privdinis. Now because of all the work that the players went into luring it here, and the untimely death of our favorite friend, there was actually a memorial in Privdinis where an Abyssal Demon will randomly appear and occasionally teleport around. And finally here, I want to have a look at a really interesting mechanic back from RuneScape Classic. And that's something called PID Experience. Now in the modern era of RuneScape, most players know what PID is. It stands for Player ID, and is usually associated today with who will attack first if both players attack at the exact same time. Now back in RuneScape Classic, there was kind of an interesting interaction called PID Experience. Now similar to today, whenever you log into the game, you were assigned a player ID or a PID. Now the same thing would happen back in RuneScape Classic, and something that was really interesting that could happen is if, for example, you were attacking a monster and left it alive, and then you proceeded to log off. If another totally random player logged in and got assigned the exact same PID as that other player, they were now assigned the kill and the experience that that monster would give upon death. So if a third completely unrelated player comes in, kills the monster, hadn't dealt the majority of the damage, then a completely random player could potentially gain experience. Now this was actually somewhat of an issue if you ever wanted to make a skiller account, because through no error of your own and almost seemingly at random, you could actually gain combat experience just based on the PID that you happen to log in with and just pure luck. Now because of that, making a dedicated pure account or a skiller account was deemed very challenging or nigh on impossible because of PID experience. I thought this was something really interesting, however it's pretty good we don't have it today, or else the skiller community would probably be a bit upset. Anyway guys, that is it for today's video. Those are 3 interesting stories from RuneScape's history. Let me know with a comment down below if there's anything else you want me to talk about. Interesting unknown stories from RuneScape's history. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Before I go, I just want to give a special thank you to Heathen Lock Games and the rest of my YouTube members over on YouTube. I really do appreciate your support. If you are looking for another way to support the channel, becoming a YouTube member is an excellent way to do it, and by doing so you'll unlock a couple of different perks, including a custom role in my Discord channel, access to my video release schedule, and being mentioned in my YouTube videos. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.